Hey, this is Brian B. with West Coast Swing Online, and we are talking about posture. Posture is one of the most fundamental things in dancing, and I'm going to talk about some basics of posture to understand and improve it, and then some things that we can do with our posture to explore artistically. I thought this would be a good time for a product placement. Boom. So, there is my first building block of my posture, and that's my hips. The second part is my rib cage. Boom. There's my rib cage stacked on top of that. What do you think finally goes on top of that? My big head. Bang, 3 for 3. So that's what I want you to think about when we talk about posture. My hips, stacked on top of that is my rib cage, stacked on top of that is my head. Now, with these Coke cans, I can rotate around those spots, but I have to maintain that upright position, yes? We're gonna take these back. Boom, 1, 2, 3, and she caught all 3 off camera. That's fantastic, right? So when we stand here and talk about posture, even if I put my feet together, I want to make sure that we roll my hips underneath. Actually, can I get one of those Coke cans back? I want to make sure that my hips are rolled underneath, and I can imagine my hips. If that Coke can went sideways through my hips, I can imagine my hips rolling back this way or back underneath. Now, depending upon how we're built naturally, right? Like for instance, me, my butt likes to hang out. So I always have to think about rotating my hips underneath. Now, second one is I can imagine a Coke can going through here, and I can roll this open or I can roll it closed, right? So if I'm standing, let's say we're talking about rotation or spinning on one foot, right? I have to think about my top rotated open and my hips rotated underneath to get into a good position posture-wise, right? So we can kind of explore that. We'll go the other way. Rolling your hips under, rolling them back, rolling the rib cage open, rolling it closed. If we're in a position where we've walked forward on one foot, I definitely have to think about tucking my hips underneath and staying strong, right? Then the final part of that is, of course, my head. The mental image that I have is that of a hanging skeleton. So in science class where we had a skeleton, it would hang, or if you grabbed the top of a coat hanger and put a t-shirt underneath it, wherever you pulled the top of that coat hanger, the t-shirt would follow and it would eventually line up underneath, right? So that shirt would hang down. Same thing here, my head is on top, and I want to imagine everything hanging underneath it, stacked up in a strong posture. So go ahead and explore that, and that'll set you up in a good fundamental position. Now, if you remember we talked about those Coke cans, I can rotate my hips both clockwise and counterclockwise and still stay in a good position. I can rotate even the middle Coke can, right, or my rib cage, the second position. Of course, I can rotate my head on top of that. So that lets me a lot of artistic license to be able to rotate those positions. Most fundamentally, we talk about in spinning, right? In spinning, I've rotated the middle Coke can back, my ribs back, my head and my hips are still facing forward. Then I can close this and rotate through while still staying stacked up. I can rotate through, and then of course everything else arrives, and the last thing to arrive would be my head, which rotates independently of my rib cage and my hips. So hopefully that's a little bit of an introduction to posture and something that you can use to improve your dancing.